The Galactic Crisis. In the vast expanse of the Milky Way, year 2487, humanity had finally taken its place among the stars. For centuries, we had dreamed of this moment, joining a diverse community of alien species, sharing knowledge, and exploring the cosmos together. Yet, as we soon learned, the galaxy was far from the utopia we had imagined in our wildest science fiction tales. The Galactic Confederation, a loose alliance of over 30 sapient species, had grudgingly accepted Earth as its newest member just 5 years ago. Humans were viewed as the new kids on the block, quaint, primitive, and frankly, a bit dim. Our short lifespans and fragile bodies made us objects of pity among the long-lived Astrians and the silicon-based courts. Our constant bickering and divided planet stood in stark contrast to the unified hive mind of the insectoid Vespera. But perhaps most damning in the eyes of our galactic neighbors was our perceived cowardice. In a universe where many species had evolved as apex predators on their homeworlds, humanity's cautious nature and emphasis on diplomacy were seen as signs of weakness. The warrior Croden sneered at our reluctance to settle disputes through ritual combat, while the hyper-logical Mentarians dismissed our emotional decision-making as primitive survival instincts. It was against this backdrop of disdain and underestimation that humanity faced its greatest challenge and its opportunity for redemption. The crisis began on a quiet Tuesday, as crises often do. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's representative to the Galactic Confederation, was sipping her morning coffee in her office on Nexus Station, the massive space habitat that served as the Confederation's capital. Her AI assistant, AI, suddenly interrupted with an urgent message. Dr. Rodriguez, priority alert from the Confederation Security Council. Patching through now. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the gray face of High Counselor Zixix, a towering Astrian with shimmering, star-like skin. Representatives, he intoned, his voice resonating with a celestial timbre, we face an unprecedented threat. The Void Swarm has awakened. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The Void Swarm was a legend, a boogeyman story told to scare young aliens in their equivalent of campfire tales. A ravenous horde of energy beings that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but emptiness in their wake. But surely it couldn't be real. As if reading her thoughts, Zixix continued, long thought to be mere myth, the swarm has emerged from the depths of intergalactic space. They have already devoured 3 outlying systems in Sector 9. Our long-range scans indicate they are heading towards the heart of Confederation space. The chamber erupted into chaos as representatives from dozens of species shouted questions and demands. Elena struggled to make herself heard over the din. High Counselor, what are our options? Surely the combined might of the Confederation can repel this threat. Zixix's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what Elena recognized as anxiety. The Void Swarm defies conventional physics. Our weapons pass through them harmlessly. They absorb energy attacks, growing stronger, and they move faster than our fastest ships. We are at a loss. As the gravity of the situation sank in, Elena noticed a disturbing trend. One by one, representatives were making excuses, hedging their bets, or outright refusing to commit resources to a seemingly hopeless fight. The Croden representative, General Thrax, slammed his fist on the table. My people will not throw away our lives in a futile gesture. We shall retreat to our homeworld and make our last stand there. The Mentarian delegate, a being of pure thought housed in a hovering crystal, pulsed with cold logic. The most rational course of action is to evacuate our most valuable citizens and knowledge to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Fighting the swarm has a 99.87% probability of failure. Even the usually stalwart Vespera seemed shaken. Their representative, a drone speaking for the entire hive, buzzed nervously. The Queen Mother has decided to seal our world. We cannot risk the entire hive for the sake of other species. Elena watched in disbelief as the mighty Galactic Confederation, faced with an existential threat, began to crumble. Species after species announced their intention to flee, hide, or simply give up. The cowardice they had so often accused humans of was on full display. In that moment, something snapped inside Alina. She stood, her voice cutting through the panicked babble. Enough. The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to the small human woman who dared to raise her voice. Alina took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she was about to say. While you all cower and run, humanity will stand and fight. A ripple of disbelief ran through the assembly. The Astrian High Counselor looked at Alina with a mixture of pity and confusion. Dr. Rodriguez, surely you jest. Your species is among the youngest and least advanced in the Confederation. What hope could you possibly have against the Void Swarm? Alina's eyes blazed with determination. We may be young, but we have faced extinction-level threats before. We've stared into the abyss of our own creation. Nuclear war, climate disaster, artificial intelligence run amok, and we've always found a way to pull back from the brink. Humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our physical prowess. It's our stubborn refusal to give up, even when all hope seems lost. She turned, addressing the entire chamber. You call us cowards because we seek peaceful solutions, because we value life over honor or cold logic. But true courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of that fear. And right now, while you all tremble and flee, humanity is ready to stand against the darkness. The Croydon general sneered. Pretty words, human. But what can your primitive ships and weapons do against an enemy that devours stars? Alina allowed herself a small, fierce smile. You'd be surprised what we can do when our backs are against the wall. We've spent centuries imagining threats just like this in our fiction, gaming out scenarios, and pushing the boundaries of theoretical physics. Now we have a chance to put those wild ideas to the test. She tapped her comm device, connecting to Earth's top military and scientific minds who had been listening in. Initiate Project Lighthouse. We're going to war. As Alina's words echoed through the chamber, a mix of emotions played across the alien faces. Shock, disbelief, and perhaps just a glimmer of hope. The cowardly humans were about to show the galaxy what real courage looked like. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure, and their chance to become the heroes of the Milky Way. Humanity's bold stand. As Dr. Alina Rodriguez's declaration echoed through the Confederation chamber, a stunned silence fell over the alien representatives. The audacity of humanity's stand against the Void Swarm was unprecedented. For a moment, no one moved or spoke, processing the implications of what had just transpired. The silence was broken by a harsh, grating laugh from the Croydon General Thrax. You humans truly are as foolish as you are weak, he sneered. Your entire civilization will be nothing but cosmic dust when the swarm is finished with you. Alina stood her ground, her eyes never leaving the towering reptilian warrior. Perhaps, she replied coolly, but I'd rather be remembered as a fool who tried than a coward who ran. As the chamber erupted into chaotic debate once more, Alina quietly slipped away. She had work to do. Back on Earth, the gears of humanity's war machine were already spinning into motion. Project Lighthouse, a contingency plan developed in secret by an international coalition of scientists, engineers, and military strategists, was now a go. In orbit above Earth, massive space stations began to transform. Hidden panels slid away, revealing state-of-the-art shipyards. Sleek, experimental vessels that had been kept under wraps for years were now being prepped for their maiden voyages. On the ground, military bases around the world buzzed with activity. Soldiers who had trained for years in simulated alien environments were now suiting up in powered exoskeletons, preparing to face a threat they had only ever imagined in their wildest nightmares. In laboratories and research facilities across the globe, scientists worked around the clock, fine-tuning experimental weapons and defenses. Theories that had once been considered fringe or even impossible were now being put to the test with a desperate urgency. At the heart of it all stood Admiral Jen Chen, the mastermind behind Project Lighthouse. A veteran of Earth's tumultuous unification wars, Chen had dedicated the latter part of his career to preparing humanity for threats from beyond the stars. Now, as he stood in the control room of Harmonic Base, Earth's primary deep space defense facility, he felt the weight of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy on his shoulders. "Status report," Chen barked, his eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded him. His second-in-command, Commander Aisha Okafor, stepped forward. "Sir, the Artemis fleet is at 80% readiness. The dataless defense grid is online and fully operational. Project Helios is, well, it's as ready as it'll ever be, given the circumstances." Chen nodded grimly. "And our allies?" Aisha's expression tightened. "Still no word from the Confederation species, sir. It seems they're sticking to their decision to abandon ship." "Cowards," Chen muttered under his breath. Then, louder, "No matter. We've prepared for this eventuality. Initiate the Phalanx Protocol." As Aisha relayed the orders, Chen allowed himself a moment of reflection. The Phalanx Protocol was a last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary pass in the face of overwhelming odds. It involved positioning Earth's entire fleet in a defensive formation around key Confederation worlds, with or without their permission. The hope was that by demonstrating humanity's willingness to lay down their lives for others, they might shame or inspire the other species into joining the fight. Across the solar system, humanity's ships began to move. The Artemis fleet, a collection of the most advanced warships Earth had ever produced, formed the vanguard. These vessels, with their sleek designs and experimental phase-shift drives, represented the pinnacle of human engineering and ingenuity. Behind them came the slower, but heavily armed and armored bulwark-class defenders. These massive ships, each the size of a small moon, were mobile fortresses designed to absorb tremendous punishment while dishing out devastating firepower. As the fleet prepared to make the jump to faster-than-light travel, Admiral Chen received an unexpected transmission. It was from Dr. Rodriguez on Nexus Station. "Admiral." Elena's holographic form flickered into view, her expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "We may have an opportunity here. The Confederation Security Council is in disarray, but not everyone has given up hope. I've been in talks with representatives from a few of the smaller, less influential species. They're impressed by our stand, and, well, they want to help." Chen's eyebrows shot up. "What kind of help are we talking about, Doctor?" "The Zerul, for instance," Elena continued. "They're an arachnid species, not much for direct combat, but they're offering us access to their quantum entanglement communication network. It could give us near-instantaneous coordination across the battlefield." "The gloop," she added, referring to a species of amorphous, gelatinous beings, "have some fascinating biotech that could help protect our ships from energy-based attacks. And the Whisperers, well, no one's quite sure what they are, but they claim to have knowledge about the Void Swarm's weaknesses." Chen felt a glimmer of hope for the first time since the crisis began. "Good work, Doctor. Get them on board and integrated with our forces as quickly as possible. We'll take all the help we can get." As the transmission ended, Chen turned to address the control room. "Listen up, people. I know the odds seem insurmountable. I know many of you are scared. Hell, I'm scared too. But remember this, throughout our history, humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We've stared into the abyss of our own making. Nuclear war, climate disaster, rogue AI. And we've always found a way to pull back from the brink." He paused, making eye contact with each person in the room. "Our greatest strength isn't our technology or our firepower. It's our adaptability, our creativity, and our stubborn refusal to give up, even when all hope seems lost. The galaxy may see us as primitive, as cowards, but we're about to show them what humanity is truly capable of." A cheer went up from the assembled staff, a roar of defiance in the face of cosmic terror. As it died down, Chen gave the order they had all been waiting for. All ships, prepare for FTL jump. Our destination. The edge of Sector 9. We're taking the fight to the Void Swarm. As humanity's fleet vanished into the depths of space, leaving behind a blue marble that had nurtured them for millennia, the true test was about to begin. The galaxy watched with bated breath as the species they had dismissed as cowards and weaklings prepared to face an enemy that had sent even the mightiest civilizations fleeing in terror. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of humanity's journey from underdogs to the heroes of the Milky Way. The first engagement. The vastness of space stretched before the human fleet as they dropped out of FTL on the fringes of Sector 9. The stars here seemed dimmer, as if cowering from the approaching horror. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship, the HSS Leonidas, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Status report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the tension that hung in the air like a physical presence. Commander Okafor's fingers danced over her console. "All ships accounted for. Admiral. The Zural quantum network is online and functioning. Gloop biotech shields are at full capacity. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Chen nodded, then addressed the fleet. "This is Admiral Chen. In a few moments, we will engage an enemy unlike any humanity has faced before. Remember your training, trust in each other, and no matter what happens, know that Earth stands with you. Good hunting." As if on cue, the sensors lit up. Lieutenant Ravi Kapoor, the young prodigy handling sensor operations, called out, "Contacts." Multiple contacts at extreme range, closing fast. The view screen flickered to life, showing the sight that would haunt the dreams of those present for years to come. The Void Swarm lived up to its name. A writhing mass of darkness that seemed to devour the very light around it. As they watched, a star in the swarm's path simply winked out of existence. "All ships, battle formations," Chen ordered, his voice never wavering. "Initiate Operation Firefly." Operation Firefly was the brainchild of Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant physicist who had theorized that the Void Swarm's energy-absorbing nature could be turned against it. The plan was audacious, bordering on insane. But then again, so was facing the swarm in the first place. The human fleet split into 3 groups. The Artemis-class ships, with their superior maneuverability, formed a loose sphere around the swarm's advance. The bulkier Bulwark-class defenders positioned themselves at key strategic points, their massive energy capacitors humming with potential. As the swarm approached, the Artemis ships began their dance. Darting in and out of the swarm's reach, they fired specialized proton beams, not to damage, but to attract. The void entities, drawn to the energy like moths to a flame, gave chase. "Now," Chen shouted as the swarm reached the perfect position, "initiate the Helios Protocol." In that instant, every Bulwark ship unleashed a torrent of energy, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Experimental antimatter reactors, pushed far beyond their safe limits, poured out a tsunami of power. The Artemis ships, their job done, phased out of normal space using their cutting-edge drives, narrowly avoiding annihilation. For a moment, it seemed as if a new sun had been born in the midst of the battlefield. The Void Swarm, unable to resist the lure of so much energy, converged on the point of emission. They fed and fed, growing larger, more powerful. And then, like a supernova in reverse, they collapsed. The sensors went wild as a miniature black hole formed in the heart of the swarm, its gravitational pull tearing apart the very fabric of the energy beings. In the span of a few heartbeats, a significant portion of the Void Swarm had been erased from existence. A cheer went up across the human fleet, but Chen's expression remained grim. "Damage report," he called out. Okafor's voice was somber as she replied, "We've lost 30% of the Bulwark ships, sir. The energy discharge was more than they could handle." Chen closed his eyes for a moment, honoring the sacrifice of those brave souls. When he opened them again, they burned with renewed determination. And the swarm? "Significantly diminished, sir," Ravi reported, a note of awe in his voice. "We've taken out nearly half their number." "But," he hesitated. "Speak freely, Lieutenant," Chen encouraged. "Sir, the remaining swarm entities, they're changing, adapting. I don't think the same trick will work twice." As if to confirm Ravi's words, the remnants of the void swarm began to move with newfound purpose. Gone was the mindless hunger. Now they moved with tactical precision, forming intricate patterns that defied the laws of physics as humans understood them. "They're intelligent," Chen breathed, the full implications hitting him like a physical blow. "Not just instinct-driven, but capable of learning and adapting." Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice came through the comm system, tinged with both excitement and fear. "Admiral, the Whisperers were right. The Void Swarm isn't just a force of nature, it's a collective intelligence. And now we've gotten its full attention." As the reformed swarm approached, its movements almost graceful in their deadly purpose, Shen realized that the real battle was only just beginning. Humanity had bloodied the nose of a cosmic horror, but in doing so, they had awakened something far more terrifying than they had ever imagined. "All ships, regroup and prepare for defensive maneuvers," Chen ordered, his mind racing through possibilities. "Dr. Rodriguez, I need options. If we can't outfight them, we need to outthink them." As the human fleet scrambled to face this new threat, word of their initial victory was already spreading across the galaxy. Species that had written off humanity as doomed were now watching with bated breath. The cowardly apes had done the impossible. They had hurt the Void Swarm. But the question on everyone's mind was, at what cost? And could they do it again? In the vast, cold expanse of space, humanity steeled itself for round 2 against an enemy that now saw them not as mere prey, but as worthy adversaries. The next moves in this cosmic chess game would determine not just the fate of Earth, but of all life in the galaxy. Turning the tide. The aftermath of the first engagement left the human fleet battered but unbowed. As the reshaped Void Swarm approached with ominous purpose, Admiral Chen knew they needed a new strategy. And fast. "Dr. Rodriguez," Chen called out, his voice tight with urgency, "what have you and the Whisperers come up with?" Elena's holographic form flickered to life on the bridge, her expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Admiral, the Whisperers have been, well, whispering. They say the Void Swarm isn't just a collective intelligence, it's a hive mind spanning multiple dimensions." Chen's brow furrowed. "And how does that help us?" "Think of it like a complex computer network," Elena explained. "If we can disrupt the connections between nodes, or in this case, dimensions, we might be able to throw the entire swarm into disarray." Commander Okafor leaned in, intrigued. "But how do we disrupt something we can barely comprehend, let alone touch?" It was at this moment that an unexpected voice chimed in. "Perhaps we can be of assistance." The melodious tones belonged to Ambassador Xylith of the Harmonians, a species known for their mastery of sonic technologies. Their ship had just dropped out of FTL, responding to humanity's distress call. Chen's eyes widened in surprise. "Ambassador, I thought your people had decided to remain neutral in this conflict." Xylith's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what humans had learned to recognize as embarrassment. "We may have been hasty in our initial decision. Your bravery has inspired many. We bring with us the sonic resonator, a device capable of generating multidimensional harmonics." As more ships began to appear, the crystalline vessels of the Quartz, the organic hives of the Vespera, even a contingent of Croton warships, Chen felt a surge of hope. Humanity's stand had not gone unnoticed. With newfound allies and technologies at their disposal, a daring plan began to take shape. The Harmonian sonic resonator would be the key, generating a frequency that could disrupt the swarm's interdimensional communications. But to be effective, it needed to be deployed at the heart of the swarm. "It's a suicide mission," General Thrax of the Crotons growled. "Who would be foolish enough to volunteer?" Chen stood tall, his decision made. "The Leonidas will do it. We started this fight. We'll see it through." But before he could give the order, a new voice interrupted. "Begging your pardon, Admiral, but I think we might have a better option." Lieutenant Ravi Kapoor stepped forward, his young face alight with an idea. "What if we combine the Artemis ship's phase shift technology with the Gloop's biotech shielding? We could create a vessel capable of slipping in and out of the swarm's reach while deploying the resonator." The next few hours were a frenzy of activity as engineers and scientists from a dozen species worked together to bring Ravi's idea to life. The result was the Chimera, a hybrid ship that embodied the best of what each race had to offer. As the modified vessel prepared for its mission, Chen addressed the combined fleet. "Today, we stand united against a threat that would consume us all. Remember this moment, for it marks a new chapter in galactic history. Together, we are more than the sum of our parts. Together, we will prevail." The Chimera shot forward, its phase shift drive allowing it to dance between the tendrils of void energy. At its helm sat Ravi, his hand steady despite the enormous pressure. With each shift, the ship deployed pods containing miniaturized versions of the sonic resonator, creating a web of disruptive frequencies throughout the swarm. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a puppet with its strings cut, the void swarm began to lose cohesion. Entities collided with each other, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. "Now," Chen roared, "all ships, concentrate fire on the disrupted areas." The combined fleet unleashed a barrage unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Croton plasma cannons fired alongside quartz crystal beams and Vespera bioweapons. Human ships contributed with their antimatter torpedoes and gravity lances. Where once the void swarm had seemed invincible, now it began to disintegrate under the onslaught. Without its hive mind to coordinate, individual entities were picked off one by one. As the battle raged, Elena made a startling discovery. "Admiral," she called out, her voice filled with awe, "we're picking up signals from within the swarm. I think there are trapped consciousnesses in there. Remnants of civilizations the swarm has consumed over the eons." This revelation added a new dimension to the fight. It was no longer just about survival, but liberation. With renewed vigor, the Allied fleet pressed their advantage, targeting their attacks to free as many trapped beings as possible. Hours passed in a blur of intense combat. When the last void entity finally winked out of existence, a stunned silence fell over the battlefield. They had done it. Against all odds, they had won. As the realization of their victory sank in, cheers erupted across the fleet. Species that had been bitter rivals mere days ago now celebrated together, united in their triumph over cosmic horror. Admiral Chen allowed himself a small smile as he surveyed the scene. Humanity had not only survived, but had brought together the galaxy in a way no one could have imagined. The cowardly humans had proven themselves to be not just brave, but inspiring leaders. But even as the celebrations began, Chen knew their work was far from over. The liberated consciousnesses would need help, the galaxy would need to be rebuilt, and who knew what other threats lurked in the vast unknowns of space. One thing was certain: whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The age of isolation was over. A new era of galactic cooperation had begun, with humanity standing proudly at its forefront. As the Allied fleet set course for home, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if in approval of this new cosmic order. The cowards had become heroes, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Triumph and recognition. The return journey to Earth was marked by a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. As the combined fleet dropped out of FTL and Sol's orbit, they were greeted by a sight that took their breath away. Ships from every corner of the galaxy had gathered, forming an honor guard that stretched from the Moon to Mars. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Leonidas, his weathered face reflecting the myriad of emotions coursing through him. "I never thought I'd see the day," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had taken up a permanent advisory position on the flagship, stepped up beside him. "None of us did, Admiral. But here we are." As the fleet made its way through the sea of alien vessels, messages of gratitude and admiration flooded the comms. Species that had once looked down on humanity now hailed them as saviors. The Croton, known for their warrior culture, offered a solemn salute. The Astrians, with their advanced technology, admitted that they had underestimated human potential. But it was the liberated consciousnesses from within the void swarm that offered the most profound thanks. These beings, some from civilizations long thought extinct, had been given a second chance at life. Their gratitude was boundless, and their knowledge promised to revolutionize galactic understanding in ways no one had thought possible. As the Leonidas docked at the newly constructed Harmony Station in Earth's orbit, Chen and his crew were met with a hero's welcome. Representatives from every nation on Earth, as well as delegates from across the galaxy, had gathered for this historic moment. The United Earth President, Adebayo Okonkwo, stepped forward to greet them. "Admiral Chen, Dr. Rodriguez, on behalf of humanity and our galactic allies, we welcome you home. Your bravery and leadership in the face of unimaginable odds have not only saved our species, but have ushered in a new era of cooperation and understanding." Chen, never one for grand speeches, simply nodded. "We did what had to be done, Mr. President. Every being on this fleet, human or alien, is a hero." As the ceremonial speeches and accolades continued, Alina found herself drawn into a conversation with a group of scientists from various species. The Mentirian crystal pulsed with curiosity as it posed a question. "Dr. Rodriguez, how did humanity find the courage to stand against the void swarm when so many others faltered?" Alina thought for a moment before responding. "I believe it's because of our history. Humans have always been underdogs. We've faced extinction-level threats before, some of our own making. Each time, we've had to innovate, adapt, and overcome. It's not that we're fearless, it's that we've learned to act despite our fear." A Vespera drone buzzed in agreement. "Your species' ability to unite in the face of adversity is truly remarkable. We had dismissed you as divided and weak, but now we see that your differences are a source of strength." As the celebrations continued, news came in from across the galaxy. The defeat of the Void Swarm had triggered a renaissance of sorts. Species that had long isolated themselves were now reaching out, eager to join the new galactic community. Ancient rivalries were being set aside in favor of cooperation. The liberated consciousnesses were sharing knowledge that promised to solve problems that had plagued civilizations for eons. But perhaps the most profound change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. No longer were they seen as cowardly or primitive. Instead, Earth was fast becoming a symbol of hope, resilience, and unity. In the days that followed, a series of historic decisions were made. The Galactic Confederation was restructured, with Earth given a prominent role in its leadership. A new initiative, dubbed the Lighthouse Protocol, was established to detect and respond to cosmic threats, and a massive project was launched to explore and map the dimensions from which the Void Swarm had emerged, hoping to prevent any future incursions. As Admiral Chen watched these developments unfold, he felt a sense of pride, but also responsibility. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage, but the real work was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, new threats to face, and difficult decisions to make. But as he looked out at the stars, now teeming with possibility rather than dread, Chen knew one thing for certain. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. The age of isolation was over. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, with humanity playing a central role. The species once dismissed as cowards had become the heroes of the Milky Way, and in doing so, they had not only saved themselves, but had given the entire galaxy a future worth fighting for. As the Earth turned below, bathed in the light of a new dawn, the message was clear. The human spirit, once unleashed, knew no bounds. The stars, once distant and forbidding, now beckoned with the promise of adventure, discovery, and a united future for all sentient beings. The cowards had become legends, and the legend of humanity's stand against the Void Swarm would be told and retold across the cosmos for generations to come. It was a reminder that true courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. And in that triumph, humanity had found its place among the stars.